Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tracklist podcast show. I'm Daron Jenkins.
I'm Chris Saunders.
Not sure who you are suddenly for a second there.
No, I think there's some delay.
Is there a delay? Oh, okay. Well, we are still here to do the 2024 film Luther, Never Too Much, directed by Dawn Porter, featuring obviously the legendary vocalist and music producer Luther Vandross. Chronicles the life of an iconic music performer from childhood musical talent to worldwide fame. It explores his collaborations, influences, character, and the relationships with his family, friends, and fans. This movie, as of November the 3rd, grossed around 390,000. I'm going to guess it was more than that now. And the box office worldwide was $637,000.
You can find a budget, right?
The budget for this, no, I couldn't find a budget for it.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm going to guess it was not more than the milk.
But when it was released in May?
This was released on New Year's Eve on CNN.
Okay. Well, so in the last almost 2 months, it's 8.3 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, critics and audience 98%. It's a little early, probably.
Because everybody loves Luther.
It's probably a little early, but
yeah.
And I don't know how many more people are going to be rating this on Rotten Tomatoes, but I mean, it was good. I mean, like I don't know almost nothing about Luther Vandross, so I had my learning cap on for this one.
Interesting. I didn't know.
But I did want to say real quickly, because she's featured in this documentary, and she passed away yesterday. Rest in peace, Roberta Flack. Wow.
Yes. How familiar were you with her music?
I mean, only it's because the Fugees covered "Killing Me Softly," and she wrote the original. And I don't know how familiar I am, but like she's a legend. Obviously, she was featured in this. Wasn't she featured in that Woodstock of Harlem documentary we did too?
Summer of Soul.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's just another.
I grew up with it. My mother played her music all the time.
Yeah.
Between her, Aretha Franklin, Shirley Bassey, Phoebe Snow, and her.
I think my mom had a record, a Roberta Flack record, but I don't know if I played it too much. I was playing my Michael Jackson, Ella Fitzgerald, Bob Marley records.
Yeah, I mean, Roberta Flack was kind of like adult listening. Not because it was of content, just because she was singing about, sophisticated stuff, you know what I mean? So, but such a great vocalist. I was saying during watching this documentary, and there's that scene where she's playing with him and he's backing her up. I was like, her voice is on that short list of music voices that are just so, I don't know how else to explain, but clear. Like you just know the minute you hear her voice, it's her.
How do you compare Lauryn Hill's rendition of "Killing Me Softly"? Because Lauren's got a pretty distinct voice too.
Yeah. It's up there with, so obviously Luther does a cover of the Carpenters song, and everyone always kind of compares like which one's better. I'm not going to say either one is better, but I think they each really tell a tale of the era in which they were created. You can't hate Lauryn Hill, right? I mean, it's such an iconic song, but you can't discount the original. You just can't.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you one thing about Luther, though. I don't know. I mean, I learned a bunch. I didn't know much before I watched this, but what I do know is listening to him sing makes me reevaluate my music career.
In what way? Like for the plus or the minus?
Minus, man. Makes me want to give up, man. This guy's voice and his control is so amazing. It's so effective. Like you feel his voice. You just feel it.
And it's so easy when he does it. It's so like he's practicing on stage with his backup dancers, and he's hitting these notes just like matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah, when he's just like, in rehearsal, he's just like strolling around the stage, directing traffic. He's like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just that easy, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
Asshole, what an asshole. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there wasn't much this is, again, like I've said this before, this is a documentary, so the whole thing is like trivia, but there was one trivia piece on IMDb, and it was that Luther's middle name was Ronzoni because his mom loved pasta when she was pregnant with him.
Ron.
Yeah, they don't mention Ronzoni in this film, so I don't know how true this is, but
That sounds like some. I'm gonna call bullshit on that, but if it is, man,
no wonder he had
come on.
eating issues, which I didn't know
Yeah,
about, by the way. I didn't know about that. Yeah, it's just
I remember that.
just like
I remember.
it's a not helpful trivia, but yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, this. So this is the second time I've seen this document. I watched it on New Year's Eve because I had nothing else better to do. But I'm glad I got to watch it. But I'm watching it a second. This is like we've done a number of music docs, and this one was probably the only one that I found myself singing along to while I was watching. So
Yeah.
big fan of Luther Vandross.
I mean, it's funny they mention a song in this film. I don't want to like jump ahead, but that particular song is the definitive one for me. I absolutely I've loved it since I first heard it, and they talk about it a little
What song is that?
I will. We'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, but of course, like other thing is like yeah, I'm not a huge, but I'm just hearing the songs throughout this film. His music was in the backdrop of my life from a very young age, like whether it was on the radio or like I don't know if he was an MTV guy, maybe more VH1 kind of guy, or
Yeah, I think he's more of VH1.
or my mom's friends' places and they were playing it on the record. So yeah, a lot of this stuff sounds familiar. And a lot of stuff I forgot, so it's great. This is a good one. I added a bunch of stuff to my Spotify. I'm ready to do a deep dive on Luther again.
Yeah, well, like he has two pieces of his career. He has the VH1 side of him, and then he does have some MTV, obviously, because he worked with David Bowie and he wrote some stuff for Chic and
dude. I didn't know he was that prolific, dude. Like, I didn't know he sang with so many people. I didn't know, like, David Bowie kind of took him under his wing, along with, like, some other artists.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to say Patti LaBelle, not Patti LaBelle.
Dionne Warwick.
And then he just worked with so many people as a backup singer. I just didn't know that.
Yeah, he sang for everybody. He sang with everybody.
I had an early question, though.
He's even done, like, some rock. Even produced some... He even worked with, like, a couple, like Steve Perry from...
Aerosmith?
Journey and a couple other guys.
Yeah, well, I also didn't know he was a producer. So, again, I was learning. I was learning on this one. But I did have an early question. Does it bother you that they opened the film with a cover song?
As opposed to
one of his own songs.
Not so much, because that was a pretty kind of like a signature song for him, I think. Fits in it goes into the MTV side of his career.
He does it better, but I'm just,
Oh, he absolutely did.
And also the fact that they call this Never Too Much, seems like a no-brainer to start with that film. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that also, so like I said, I'm a big fan of Luther Vandross. We always have these conversations about documentaries on this show and like their structure and content sometimes. And I feel like while I love this movie, I felt like there was something missing. I can't put my finger on it.
I can tell you a big, I don't know, hole for me. You get like what did I get to? I got to an hour and 14 minutes in. This is an hour 40 minutes. Finally, at an hour 14, he's talking about finding love. We don't really hear anything about his personal life till that point, except the weight problems. It makes sense in the flow of the film because they talk about it right after they talk about Any Love, but I feel like they could have spoken to it earlier, like in a song, right? In the song itself, right? You're gonna have hints of things early on, and then it comes in later on, maybe in the bridge or something, right? Like they could have done that here. And then out of nowhere, they mention that he's diabetic at an hour 23. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's important information. So that was the gap for me. They left out a bunch of stuff till the last 20, 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah. They also left out to me So they talk about, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit. We're going to probably jump around in this movie a little bit. They talk about the car accident that he had in '99, I think it was. Oh no, '86. It was in '86, and that someone, his passion, whoever was in the car with him, died. But they kind of skip over kind of a huge piece of that conversation, which is someone died. How come Luther Vandross ain't in jail?
Well, they show quickly like something about uh, what am I thinking? Some court case. They
Yeah,
showed a quick like newspaper article. Yeah, but they
the
didn't
news
go into
clipping. Yeah.
detail. Did they even mention that he was driving?
Well, he pleaded guilty, so he had to be driving.
And then was he under the influence?
So there you. That's what I'm trying to say. Like what? Like how come we don't know? Like you can't drop that information and just expect people to go, oh, cool, okay. Well, he's still making records. That's okay.
Well,
It's
I
weird.
think part of it was like, this was really, really, really a focus on the music, right? That's why we
Yeah,
don't get that information, or like they mention like the love
and they should have
thing and
left
the
it the
weight
fuck
thing
out.
like towards the end. But like, are we talking about? I don't know. You can't just call it Luther, right? I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like the title, if you're gonna talk about like. Maybe it's Luther the music, right? Like if that's where the direction you're gonna go, call it that, right?
Right,
But if we're talking about like a biopic, or
right.
not a biopic, but a documentary on his life, then yeah, we have to get the details and the nitty gritty, right? I don't want to hear all these different
Yeah,
like
right. We
bad
don't
things that
really
he
need
did, but
too much
yeah, but
detail.
like if you're gonna,
But if you're gonna drop something like that, you've got to at least explain it.
yeah, so yeah, there's definitely stuff missing, but
Hmm.
for what we did get, it was very enjoyable.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was from New
yeah,
York, so points for that, from the
yeah.
Bronx. And then I was like 10 minutes into the film, and I was already convinced that this was gonna be like the best soundtrack ever, because they're putting in all these like, it's not just his music, right? They're putting in like stuff he used to listen to, his influences. So within
Yeah.
the first 10 minutes, we're getting Ain't No Stopping Us Now, You Can't Hurry Love for the Supremes, Respect Aretha Franklin, Any Old Time of Day, Dionne Warwick, right? Like because they're just showing short clips. There was way too many songs to track, but like that was another issue.
What was that?
I didn't even have time to Shazam these most of the time. They were
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
such
yeah.
short clips, and come on, man, I'm here for the music. Let me hear some.
Yeah. It was like it would start to play, and then by the time I got my Shazam up, and
Someone's talking
it would
over it.
be back to talking. Then they play a little bit
Yeah,
more. Then they talking. Then they
yeah.
play a little bit more, and then they would. That's it.
That was kind of frustrating, actually. So now I'm like
Yeah.
reevaluating not my career, but my rating for this film.
Well,
But yeah,
this is one of those. I think opportunities. I think that this should have been a series. This should have been a limited 4-part series, maybe, because then you know what I mean. They could have kind of talked about the beginning in the first episode, like his early in his career, the second episode, the top of his career in the third episode. In the fourth episode, kind of look back and talk about all the things that kind of got in the way of him, continuing his journey at the end. They could have gone into the diabetes and the food addiction and accident in '86. They could have, that way at least you go, okay, so this dude had problems. I got it.
yeah. I mean, an hour 40 is definitely not enough.
Was it an hour 40?
Yeah,
Wow.
and you wanna hear, like, I want to hear a full fucking
Music.
song, like
Yeah.
a lot. I
Yeah.
just want to see him performing live a full song. How many songs?
At least once or twice during the whole thing,
At
right?
least. If you have a 4-part series, now you could do it. Could do probably like 3 songs per
Yeah.
episode if it's an hour, right? It's only
Yeah.
5 minutes to sing a song, right? Like shit. It's not that big of a time suck. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe someone else will do the series.
I
Maybe
mean,
maybe
he
we'll do the
kind of
series.
does that. He kind of sings kind of the whole song. Well, not even whole. 2/3 of a song when he's performing. I think was it at the Grammys? He's singing for Dionne Warwick.
Yes, I mean, and that was amazing.
That was about as close as we
And
got.
that was amazing. And it's just
Yeah.
like
That was amazing.
more.
Yeah.
more, right? So, and even Dionne Warwick, I mean, that's even she says like you just sung the definitive version of my song, right? So,
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
yeah. Uh, but early on in the film, they're talking about when Luther was growing up and his friends, and like someone described it as the peak of black music, which is like late 60s and 70s, I think is when they grew up. I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I would even go back to the 60s, man, like early 60s, like Motown,
Hmm.
because then they compare it to like the Philly music scene, and like saying that was like a little more raw, not as
Yeah.
buttoned up. It doesn't make it better though. Like I mean, like I'm going for like Marvin Gaye and like the Temptations, and like I mean, even Aretha is earlier, right? So like I
Hmm.
don't know, is this the peak of black music?
I think I think I think we're not being generous enough. I think the peak should be more than just a decade or two. I think it, to be honest, I think that peak was pretty long. I think it was from the 60s until probably late 70s,
Well, do
early
you
80s.
consider like doo-wop and those black groups the beginning of the peak? Because that goes back to the 50s now.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you like, well, I mean, let's be truth be told, like the black music has been always been good. It's just a matter of how you want to define the
Well, how
levels. Like,
popular it was as well, right? Like, yeah,
yeah,
is it how
yeah,
good is it the quality, or is it like the reach? But
right.
even then, like extending past the 70s into the 80s or 80s is Michael Jackson, Prince,
Yeah,
Whitney Houston, right? So and
yeah.
then going into the
Gucci.
90s, like
Yeah.
someone I think is probably very much inspired by Luther Vandross, like Brian McKnight's one of my favorite singers, but also
Oh yeah.
Boys to Men, right? TLC 90s, right? So SWV.
Johnny
So
Gill.
to me, like, yeah, I agree, right? We're talking about the peak. I could go from the 50s to the 90s.
Yeah. I think it's very hard to kind of limit it. I think you just, the challenge, I think it's just, to me, it's based on, the fact that there were just so many challenges to try to get on the radio, which,
They talk about in
so
this, yeah.
yeah.
And of
So
course, like, with that peak of black music, they mentioned the Apollo and going to see shows there,
yeah.
Showtime at the Apollo, right? So, but when was the Apollo founded?
Actually, the anniversary just happened. It was an anniversary for them recently. It's been a while. It's got to be more than 70 years now.
Let's see. The Apollo Theater opened its doors in 1914
Yeah.
and then
So there you
reopened in
go.
1934. So I guess they shut down or moved or something happened. So let's say 1934 for the modern day one, which is 90 years.
Yeah.
It's still around, man.
Yeah, still around. I was on Showtime at the Apollo, so that was fun. Not Luther
Now you're acting
is,
like this documentary. You want to just drop that little nugget and not expound? Like, what the fuck?
well, it's not. This is the Luther Vandross podcast, not the damn podcast. Yeah, I was on there. I think that would have been 80. No, 89.
Is
Would have
that
been
under your
89.
stage name, Damon Wayans?
No, screw you.
Dude, even you made a post.
At least I'm
Even
winning
even you
awards.
even you made a post about you and Damon Wayans.
Hey, if people are gonna say I look like him, then I'm gonna take the credit for all his awards too. Why not?
Let me know how that
I'm
works for you.
famous.
Hey, what were you gonna say about Luther? I mean, I was.
So Luther, I grew up with Luther Vandross, and he was. So here's what, and I'm curious if you didn't notice this either. So we talk about our music universe a lot, our end all be all music universe, and a few people from our music universe were on this documentary. Dionne Warwick, Aretha Franklin, Roberta Flack obviously will be in there.
Dude, Nile Rodgers.
Nile Rodgers, obviously, the Temptations, I mean, there's so many, right? How come, did you not notice that there was no mention of Quincy Jones in this documentary whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, did they work together though?
Which I only found one song that they worked on together. Two songs, sorry.
Yeah, I did find it weird because I also thought Luther Vandross reminded me a lot of Quincy Jones as far as
Yeah,
like
that's why I was like, how is it they didn't work together or do something or something?
Maybe they were competitors because like just both of them like just knowing what they wanted from a young age and the variety of ways that they acted within the music industry as writers and
Yeah,
singers, performers, producers, right? I thought it was very similar. And then also on top of that, he reminds me of Michael Jackson in his preparation, right? They talk about preparation when they
yeah,
describe him as a taskmaster and those 10-hour days, 6 days a week, like rehearsing. But also in the
yeah.
performance, right? Making it a show, a spectacle, and then like the perfectionism that you see, right, when he's working with everybody, right? So those are two, to me, very good people to be compared to.
Yeah. Well, he was working with Clive Davis. And so that's what brought the why I thought about it, because Clive has worked with Quincy and Michael. So I'm just like, it was just odd that I'm like, But it wasn't till late that he did this. And I think one of the reasons why he didn't work with Quincy is because, to what you just mentioned, Luther was very specific about how he wanted to do. He wanted to do his own work, his own music. He wanted to write his own stuff, and he wanted to perform his own stuff early in his career. And I don't think that would have jived well with Quincy, because Quincy is like all about collaboration and bringing in other artists and bringing in other musicians and composers and writers. So I think there was I think they didn't work together very much on purpose.
Maybe.
I think they're just style wise with the clash.
I mean, they do talk about Luther introducing like a new sound, you know. So like
Yeah.
right, if he's working with Quincy, maybe he is. Maybe that's hit Quincy's sound is being forced on him. And I would say I think it would have worked. I think them working together would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they are they
Well, the one song that they did do together, actually is pretty good. It's actually really good. It's where is it? It's called something. Can't find it now suddenly.
well
Here it is.
I saw something about he worked on a couple songs with him on the sounds and stuff like that. Quincy's album.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss you.
Oh, in the
It's
morning
called I'm
and
gonna
taking it
miss
to
you
the
in the morning.
streets.
Yeah. It's actually pretty good. It's actually I remember the song. I remember hearing this song before. It's Patty Austin, Luther Vandross, and Quincy Jones, which is a great combination.
I'll have to check that one out. I need to go back to like earlier in his career. Had you ever heard of Listen My Brother?
Listen, my brother, is that a
That's the group that Luther
music group?
that he was with,
Yeah.
the young kids. It was like what do you say, six
Well,
guys and
that
six
was the group
girls?
that, yeah, he played. They were on Sesame Street. I remember.
I had never heard of that. I mean, they were on Sesame Street before I was born, but like
It was almost before I was born.
so. All right. Well, it just seems like a group I would have heard of before. I've never heard of it before in my life.
I tell you what, shout outs to Sesame Street,
Uh-huh.
because Sesame Street broke a lot of really famous people's careers. And I was like, there's a scene where Luther's friends are talking about him playing at Sesame Street, and they were talking about how Jim Henson came to sit in on his practices. And I was just like, why the hell is Jim Henson sitting in on the practice with Luther Vandross and his group? But he had the foresight to think that that music would go really well in that environment, and he was right. So,
I mean, yeah,
Jim Henson.
they made like counting and letters a little more accessible. A B
Yeah,
C D E. Like this is some boring ass shit. Or
right.
what they were doing like counting to 20, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, it was really cool. I remember that on when I was a kid watching that on Sesame Street. It was pretty. I don't remember Luther on there, but I remember that song.
But I love that whole time period when they're talking about him at that age. I don't even know what age they are. 17.
Well, he was born in 51, and that was in 69, so he would have been 18 years
Okay.
old.
All right, and they talk about how he got into college. He wasn't expecting to get to college, so he had to leave that group. But like just all the stuff they're talking about, like when he's creating a band and everyone has to wear like these green jade shoes. He just having that vision.
Chris, you got to do that, man. You got to do that with your.
We're not called Jade Saunders. But there's just stuff like that, having like a clear vision of like what he wanted and how he wanted to present the band and himself.
Yeah.
And even when he was in college, like calling the group every day to, hey, what are you guys singing right now? You know, stuff like that. And then dropping out of school because he's like, he knew he wanted to do music. I ain't never had the guts like that, bro. I still work 9 to 5 job and squeeze in the music.
But music, I mean, that just seems like something that artists in general, not just music artists, but creative people were doing back then.
Yeah, it was a different time.
They didn't have a such thing as work from home, too. There's that.
But you gotta do it. You just gotta put your head down and do it and commit.
Yeah.
And then, like, well, I mentioned it earlier, like, they started talking about the Philly music scene, and I almost turned it off.
Why, you don't like the Philly music scene?
I'm New York, bro. We don't like Philly.
I don't like Philly either, but the music was dope.
Come
on, man.
I can't admit it. Sorry, bro. Sorry. It's a rule. It's a rule. You're not from New York, so you don't understand. You're from Jersey. You probably like Philly.
Yeah, because it's so far away. And by the way, there are plenty of great musicians who came out of Jersey.
Name one.
Plenty. Queen Latifah.
She's New York, bro.
Naughty by Nature.
I mean, the Fugees come out of fucking Jersey.
Yeah, Fugees.
Well, Wyclef via Haiti, but yeah. I mean, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, man, the whole David Bowie angle threw me through a loop, man.
I was surprised, but I shouldn't be surprised.
I mean, game recognized game, I guess, right?
Isn't this like the third documentary or that we've done where David Bowie was involved on some level?
I don't remember. What was the previous ones that we did?
I think we did one. Who was it? Who was it? Oh, it wasn't. It was something with Michael. It was Quincy Jones. It was the Quincy documentary.
Was he? He wasn't in the We Are the World, was he?
No, because he's British. He was at the Live Aid. He did the British version.
But like, did Quincy produce him?
Quincy and David, I think, worked together on something with Michael. What was it? I'm trying to remember it might have been off the Wall album.
Song. They were friends. I'm seeing they work together. Passing of Quincy Jones. No, I don't see any. I don't see anything, but that doesn't mean anything. That's just Google spitting out results. But yeah, anyway. I mean, Bowie, I've never been a huge fan, but then like over the last, 5 years, certain songs pop up I've come across certain songs, like Let's Dance. Love that track. There was a track on this one. Oh, I thought I wrote it down. But anyway, there was a track on this one that I thought was pretty dope. Oh, I think they were talking about it because Luther wrote the song and then they changed the name for David Bowie. Did I not add it to my shit? Fascination.
What song is this?
So the original song was
Fascination.
The original song was Funky Music Is a Part of Me. And then Fascination, like I think they just changed the lyrics, but it was kind of like the same song.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, he's got some stuff. He's got some stuff that I like, and it just his voice always threw me because he had that very low voice that sometimes didn't seem like it was in key. But like you gotta love
I like David Bowie.
What's the one with from Queen? What's that song they have together?
Mercury?
Yeah. Mercury and Bowie. What's that song?
Young Americans? No.
Yeah, it's probably on my freaking Ashes to Ashes. Under Pressure. That's them.
Under Pressure, yeah.
Ashes to Ashes and another track of his I like. Yeah. Because We're Young, which I think is one of the ones he released later in life or maybe it was post after his death. I don't know. Anyway. Maybe Bowie's a guy I need to do a deeper dive into. He's never been my favorite. And he's just so odd looking. He looks like an alien.
It's weird. Like, he looks better the older he got. In this movie, he looks like an alien.
Well, is he shaving his eyebrows? I just don't know what's going on.
Well, he was into, like, he was like, yeah, he was a little strange back in the 70s and 80s, man. So I can understand why a lot of people took a while for them to warm up to him.
Yeah.
But his music was undeniably good.
I mean, I can't say I like all his stuff or most of his stuff, but there's stuff I do dig. But anyway, Luther. Back to Luther. Like I said, there's so many things I didn't know. First of all, like, all the people he performed with as a backup singer. He wrote a song from The Wiz. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
He was on Chic and Sister Sledge albums, and
Well, that I.
so hold up, he did jingles too.
Oh yeah, the McDonald's jingle was so popular. I remember that, and the Geno's commercials. We lived a couple blocks from a Geno's, so we like that was huge.
Yeah, so
And I admire him though, because I admire that he at some point decided he wasn't gonna as much money as he was making off of jingles. He just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm
jingles
good.
and singing backup for other people. He was like, they say, the best backup singer in New York, right? Like, so yeah, he was making loot, and it's like, nah, man, do my own thing. And he was just,
Because it would have been easy for him to just get comfortable and just settle, you know.
but like I mean, he's also like, man, he was. I almost want to say he was viral before viral, right? Like this is before the internet. Like, we already talked about his appearance on Sesame Street. Eddie Murphy was talking about him on Delirious, right? They make a joke like Kentucky Fried Eating motherfucker. He was in Living Color, which is hilarious. What was that? Was that Jamie Foxx's character?
Yeah.
Just like a woman, but like did that thing with his lips to make himself look really ugly. No, Sinead Hayes Martin.
Yeah.
But like she tries to, she's like, what does he say? Or Jamie Foxx is like, oh, I kiss your pictures all the time. You look like you've been kissing a weed whacker. Jesus. Like Luther said that shit. That was nice. That was good delivery. And then like he's on Oprah, and like Oprah is swooning over him. This dude was.
You saw that audience? Holy shit, dude!
This guy was everywhere, man.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, you might be right. He might be. Just imagine if he had social media. It just would have been over. It would have been over.
Well, we talk about, or they talked about in the documentary about how people continuously ask him about his weight problem and his eating problems. Yeah. The flip side of social media is what he would have been like torn apart by a bunch of people, man.
Yeah, big target.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
So that was
he didn't have.
Man.
That was depressing. It was unfortunate. You know what? That's the one thing great artists seem to all have kind of in common is that we love them so much, yet we do things to tear them down all the time. And then it's always something that is very near and dear to them. I mean, thankfully that we had him longer than, the 27 Club.
And Bob Marley died at 32.
He passed away far too soon.
Yeah, he was like 50 something. It's crazy.
Yeah, 54. Yeah, 54 because he died in 2005.
And of course, like,
for his birthday.
I feel like we talk about this or something like this in every documentary we do about a black artist. But like you alluded to earlier about, of course, we come to the more money for white artists, like more money for production and promotion for white artists on the same label as Luther Vandross. And then the black music being like at the back of the record store, like all that shit. Like, and, that's in.
That shit is
that's
real.
In like
too.
The 80s. They're talking about that. And people want to act like racism is over. I mean, even now, like, no, they're not racist. They're not doing Nazi salutes. Racism is dead. Like, man, this is 1980. It's not that long ago. It's just, I don't know. It's just fatiguing that we see this time and time again.
Yeah, it is that.
We did like Etta James. We did like we did Ray, and just every decade there's still a story of this happening. So. Those of you that just think like black people are over fucking reacting, go fuck yourselves.
Same. Yeah. I mean, every artist, every genre, every decade, same story. Different artists, same story.
Anyway, that's our allotted time for racism. Here's our new segment. Is that racist? Yeah, no.
Is that racist?
But
hold on now, because if that's the case, then I'm gonna bring up my what the fuck moment.
Do it.
Okay. The episode, the scene where Joan Rivers is interviewing him and asks him, "Are you poor growing up?" And I'm just like, would you ask that of like a white artist?
Yeah.
Would you ask them, "Were you poor?" That what was that? That had. I mean, come on.
I mean, that was right at the beginning.
If I was him, I'd have walked the fuck off.
Yeah, the film.
Right at the beginning, they just put it in there, slipped it in there real quick.
I didn't think of anything of it at the time, but yeah, I don't know why that question is asked.
Especially if a guy as successful as he was at that moment in time, there are so many other things you could ask him. Like I was sitting here as I was watching this thinking, because when they were talking about the eating disorder and how he didn't like talking about it, I started thinking to myself, if I had a chance to interview Luther Vandross, would I even think to bring up his weight or to bring up whether it's, it wouldn't even occur to me, man. I have 1,000 other questions I'd want to ask.
Yeah, I mean, and they do get into some of this stuff, but it's not in the interviews, right? It's just like through the process of the documentary, like talking about how his mom was very open to him becoming like going into music because his father was a singer, was apparently a great singer as well. Like, okay, I'd love to learn more about the father and like what he sang and did he play an instrument, like. And like I don't know if he was around that much, but how much that influenced him, right? And then of course, like what music did your mom listen to? Like what did you grow up hearing, right? What did any of that stuff influence you? Like, yeah, those would be more the questions that I would hear.
Or what you usually like, the thing that you usually kind of point out in a documentary sometimes is asking him about his writing process, because we didn't get a lot of that, which I would have been loved to have heard.
You know what's funny? Yeah, we didn't get too much, never too much of it. But at the end, when they're talking about Dance with My Father again, they show the lyrics just like Amy. They show the lyrics on the screen as it's going. And there was something else another point where they mentioned, the songwriting process. But yeah, I didn't miss it so much because they were talking about him as a producer and a songwriter and composing. So it was fine. But yeah, maybe a little more. I think my favorite part of the film was the NAACP Awards honoring Dionne Warwick, and we mentioned earlier him singing her song. Her face while he's singing reaction. That is just wow. She's just taken aback with someone else singing one of her songs. And again, we talked about it. That's one of the only songs he sings almost in full, and it's one of the best parts of the film.
Yeah, especially that last 2 or 3 lines where he started. I was like, God. What? And like people just lost their minds.
I'm gonna start doing that shit in my. This is very unique, man. I never heard nobody else do that shit.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, you're right, actually.
But we should talk about some music because there's a lot of it. Like just some of the hits that go through when they're talking about, I guess, what the music they were listening to when he was growing up. You Can't Hurry, Love the Supremes, Respect Aretha Franklin. I've mentioned some of these already. Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, the Shirelles, I Wish It Would Rain, The Temptations. By the way, when I saw the clip of the Temptations, I immediately thought Leon, dude. Because Leon plays the lead singer in the Temptations biopic. He did an amazing job. He really looked like the dude, man.
Yeah.
I gotta remember the lead singer's names. It's at the tip of my tongue. Not Otis. David Ruffin. Anyway, so Everybody Dance by Le Freak. Everybody Dance and Le Freak by Chic, which now Rogers is a part of. He was in the Quincy documentary, right?
Yep.
Searching and Glow of Love by Change, which Luther sang backup on. Yeah, this is so much. Feel Like Making Love, Roberta Flack. I mean, there's just so much music. There's so much good music.
So much stuff that people didn't even know he was doing stuff. And when you know that he's on it and then re-listen, then you completely hear his voice in the song.
Yeah. You mentioned his cover of Superstar by the Carpenters. Obviously Here and Now. This is the name of the film. Endless Love with Mariah.
Yeah. She was like when it came them together, that was a great combination. She's
talking about being nervous, and she just fucking destroyed it. She killed it.
Yeah.
My God.
She to me is like the female Luther Vandross. The way in her ability to kind of just make it seem easy as she's singing these big notes. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny. Like, we're talking about him going like, is that like her? Like,
she does it.
You got me feeling emotion. Did she get that from him? And she's got like one of the biggest ranges of any singer as well.
Yeah, she's in the top 5 of what I would call all-time vocal ranges.
You know who else does though?
For sure.
Well, Prince, but Axl Rose has a huge range.
Oh yeah, he's loud. He's got a nice range.
going back to the question, like if we were to interview Luther, the thing that the one person asked him, I forgot which interviewer this was, but what's his favorite song? And he says, "Any Love."
Oh, that was our
I
audience. Yeah,
am
yeah, yeah.
so surprised that he says that's the only autobiographical song that he's ever written. I mean, until I guess
You
Dance with My
really?
Father again, but like that was the only, like most of your songs were just of other.
That's why I wanted to know how about his writing process,
Yeah,
because I'm like, that don't even make any sense. How are you gonna write? Like, how are you gonna do that?
like yeah, and like for a guy that was known as the Love Doctor,
To say he's not had love?
yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
interesting.
Yeah, so that just like adds so many levels to that song that I think I added it to my.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
his
did.
assistant really hit it home, man. Like when he said the song is, he loved the song, but then he ended up hating the song because of
Yeah,
what it actually meant,
yeah,
and because it made him sad to think that he thought that way. And that's
and so I was mentioning a song earlier that like first since the first time I heard it, I've absolutely loved it. Dance with My Father,
yeah.
and I honestly didn't realize it was that popular of a song. I've never spoken to anybody else
Oh
about
yeah.
this song, maybe once or twice. He had said like this is my career song. And to me, it really like I don't know. This when I think of Luther Vandross, I think of this song first.
Mm.
And this is I just love the song. I know I'm praying, but much too much. Yeah, I mean, this the idea of the song. Like, how many artists have written songs about like their fathers, right?
Yeah.
This is a love song to his father. So
I was surprised. Like surprised me is I did not know he was working with Richard Marx. I was like, Richard Marx? That's crazy. That dude. I mean, he had a run in the '80s and he has a nice voice and the whole bit. But I was like, how did that get to, like? How did that even
yeah, I had no
come
idea.
about?
But that was this song was my what the fuck moment because they say as this song was hitting number one and winning a Grammy, he's in and out of a coma, so he's not even able to enjoy
Yeah,
the success. And that was like what he wanted was like a number one song. And that's just, I mean, he comes out of the coma, but he's, I don't know, he dies soon after, like couple
relapses.
years later. So I don't know how much of it he got to actually enjoy, and that's just tragic.
Yeah, I mean, he's they have him with those pictures of him and Clive after all, the stroke and talking to him on the video. I was like, it was really hard to kind of fathom that once great, powerful, voice was essentially gone.
Yeah, he's being interviewed by Oprah at the end. She's asking like, what do
Yeah,
you want to like? Just get better at something every day, and then I just want to get better at dealing with I guess his reality, and his voice was so yeah like weak and scratchy, and like that's probably like the worst thing that could possibly have happened to him.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It's like it's like being a track runner and suddenly losing one of your legs. It's just, and like you said, his last song being the most important song of his career. Who would have thought that would have been the case?
yeah. Anyway, any quotes or other what the fuck moments that caught your ear?
I didn't have a lot of quotes or what the fuck moments in this.
Not even the rumor that he died.
I remember that. I remember when that happened. It was on. They mentioned it on MTV. I remember when that happened, and it was like maybe like an hour later or something. They had to retract the report. It's like what?
What year was that?
That had to be like mid '90s.
Maybe I do remember that too. Actually, if it was mid 90s, I probably remember that. But I I had
Yeah,
a few quotes, and I feel like I'm going to say all of them because I really liked when Vandross is talking about Bowie. Like, Bowie would have a show, and he would make Vandross do like 30-minute set of his own music before he went on stage. And Vandross is like telling him, David, if you're trying to kill me, use an axe.
oh yeah,
Because like people were like just chanting Bowie's name as he's performing, which is like the second worst thing that could ever have happened to him. Like, can you imagine that? You're on stage and people are chanting someone else's name.
well that's great. I mean, you threw them out there like the wolves, and it's an odd. I mean, what he did was right. He did. I mean, that was a great thing for him to do. But you also got to think about what kind of people are in the audience.
Well, yeah, know your audience.
They're not necessarily like the people that would come to a Luther Vandross concert.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned Jamie Foxx in this documentary, by the way.
Yeah, one of the executive producers.
Oh, was
of
he?
the,
I didn't even realize that.
yeah.
Because he's probably said the funniest thing, which was, back in the day, if you wanted to fall in love, you let Luther do the work for you. He was like, I'd be on the phone with a girl, and like I have to wait for him to come on the radio, and then be like, put the phone to the radio.
He ain't lying. Luther, I remember being in high school, and whenever there was like a high school dance or some shit, when that Luther song came on, if you were standing by yourself, shame on you.
Again, for my time. And then when people keep asking him about his sexuality, right? Again, it's something that's like they don't mention at all until the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like I never thought he was gay until I started watching this documentary, and I saw like the first time he started talking and just like moving around. I was like, is Luther gay? But then, people keep on like rumors about his sexuality and asking him about it, and his response is like I don't owe you like an explanation for that. What I owe you is my music, my talent, and my best effort. And I love that response.
He's absolutely right. That was such a weird time because the music, and that was late 80s, early 90s, even some of the early 2000s, but I would say like from like 85 to like 95, 96, there were a few artists that everybody had questions about. And to be frank, it was none of anybody's business. But I mean, between him, it was Luther, it was Freddie Mercury, it was George Michael, it was somebody else. Boy
Elton
George,
John.
Elton John, but all they did was put out good music, and they didn't owe anybody anything.
Yeah, I mean,
and it kind of would kill it would kind of kill the whole ladies man, sexual chocolate energy that he.
That's what one of his friends said, is like they talked to him about that, and like he had a lot of female fans, and he didn't want to like ruin that quote unquote relationship with them or turn anyone off. So business makes sense business wise, but I don't know if it makes sense for your emotional stability.
Definitely isn't. Definitely isn't.
Anyway, so are you ready for some final questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
I just made up some questions. All
right, I'll just make up some answers.
Tom Hanks be in this film? No.
Yes.
I had an issue with something, so I had a question. Should the subtitle of this film have been Never Too Much?
I say no, only because his album is also named the same thing, so it makes it hard for you to find the film, because really all the search engines are pointing at the album.
So well, I mean, I just didn't like it. I didn't think it was relevant to the story that was told. I mean, is there another one of his songs titles that you think would have been better?
Yeah, I think it should have been the last song he wrote, Dance with My Father. I think at least at the end of the story was this thing that was like his career worked toward that. To me, that kind of made more sense, because Never Too Much, if I'm reaching, I can probably figure out a connection.
I was leaning towards, I guess I have maybe two possible answers. I just like the way Luther Here and Now sounds.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's almost like he's eternal. But then hearing the story about Any Love, I mean, it doesn't sound Luther Any Love, but because of what that song means, I feel like that's more representative of his life. So Here and Now sounds better. Any Love, I think, makes more sense, but I don't know. So I just didn't like Never Too Much. It kind of bothers me.
Yeah, or they could have just called it Luther.
Well, there's a TV show called Luther, so How about Vandross?
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, someone was saying that, there's certain people or artists where you just say one name and, like, you know who it is. Like Stevie Wonder,
Stevie's
like
one.
Luther Vandross, so I guess you could just name it Luther. I like Here and Now, though.
Obviously, Bowie.
All right, here's one. Think hard. Better version of Endless Love, Lionel Richie and Diana Ross, or Luther and Mariah?
Damn, that's an impossible test.
I said Push, bro.
I'm gonna say the Lionel Richie
Okay,
one.
okay, okay. I have to see if I have both of these on my playlist. Let's see. Let's make sure. Endless. I mean, the thing I remember the most about Endless Love is was it a Happy Gilmore? Was that it was in that movie? Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's a problem. I need to get that out of my head. But I said Push because Luther and Mariah are just
yeah,
monsters, are just beasts vocally. So,
yeah,
but so was Diana
yeah.
Ross. Okay. Unless I have a final question, unless you have one to throw into.
I have one question, and it's just a speculation of sorts. Shouldn't this movie have been like? Do you, like I saw the numbers for box office, and I feel like it's low, and I think that's because they didn't put this in the theaters. Really, like I think it was very limited release.
It's
What
probably, yeah. I mean, it's a documentary, man. It's
should have
it's a
been
documentary. It's hard to market those.
still? I mean, they could have tried. It's Luther
When's the
Vandross,
last
man.
documentary you've seen like released nationwide? Was it Amy?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. I guess.
And that's.
I'm sure there are other ones I'm
And
probably
she's a
forgetting
more
that are not.
contemporary artist that people today would go out and watch a documentary about. So like, that makes sense. This guy is from the 60s to 90s. So I
I
get
could
it.
have released it in all the black neighborhoods. That's a just
Well,
released it all the black
that's
neighborhoods.
probably the way to go. Yeah. Release it in Harlem and
Yeah.
that's it,
Actually,
Harlem.
they should have released it at the Apollo and just let it run there for like a year. So anyway, it was just a
Yeah.
speculation.
Okay, this one's hard. Luther, a top 10 male vocalist of all time. And like take into account, range, tone, pitch, like control. I have a list of folks. And it's tough because
Oh, absolutely. For my money, I think he's number one. For my money, because his range is unlimited. He has a depth that most, like you mentioned Brian McKnight, right? Brian McKnight, his weight was fluctuating up and down, which can change how your vocal
well,
range becomes.
he mentions that when he lost the weight it didn't seem to affect his voice though.
Right. So that's like nothing changed for this brother.
Yeah. So I was just like thinking about looking up some other folks, and I have a couple
Yeah.
curveballs. And maybe we have to go by
Okay.
genre or whatever, but we mentioned Freddie Mercury,
Yeah.
Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
That guy's got range.
Uh,
And he can flip his tone. Robert
yeah.
Plant, Led Zeppelin. That guy would go high. Probably higher than
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Cyndi Lauper has crazy range, but I would never put her on one of the best
yeah,
vocalists
but
lists.
Robert Plant
Never.
is not Cyndi Lauper. He's a legit fucking anyway. Nat King Cole,
Who
Sam
else you
Cooke,
got?
Marvin Gaye.
Okay.
None of them.
I still think I still like even with those guys. Like I would still put him on
All
number
right.
one on the list. I mean, there's a ton of other guys you could put on that list. Steve Perry, Daryl Hall.
Well, here are the curveballs.
Okay,
Luciano Pavarotti and Andrea Bocelli.
I'm hanging
Why
out.
are we
Man.
hanging
I'm
out?
just trying to
I'm
fool
not.
around.
These guys probably
That's
have more range than him.
that's like comparing. That's like comparing a professional golfer with somebody who does like driving ranges all the time. Those dudes are like that's like that they're on another level. You can't put them in that list
All right.
because any opera singer is going to be just that's why just Mariah has so much range because she used to do opera. She was an
So we
opera
can't
singer.
put her on a list of
So
greatest female vocalists of all time.
no, I think you can, but I don't think because she's not. So Pavarotti has never released a pop album. Pavarotti has never done anything with
But I
David
don't think
Bowie.
that's the point. I think it's more that you were just talking about the training, and Mariah has that training,
Yeah,
whereas Luther Vandross does
yeah,
not.
but I mean, you can't. I don't think like just because she had that experience doesn't mean that she could go wall to wall with another opera singer right now. Like, you know what I mean? So like Celine Dion to me is probably top 3 vocalists. I mean, but I would not
Above
include her on,
Mariah,
no,
Aretha, and Whitney.
Whitney's number 1. Plain and simple. She can drop the mic and walk off stage and nobody will argue. She's Jordan. I would put Mariah number Shirley 3, Bassey. Maybe.
I put her over Celine Dion.
You crazy?
I'm not crazy. But first of all,
she don't have that kind of range.
Are you kidding me?
She has good range.
Just the James Bond songs that we've talked about on the other podcasts alone, like Goldfish, like he remembers.
I would put Nancy Wilson over her.
Oh my God.
I would put Nancy Wilson over Shirley Bassey.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Shirley Bassey over fucking Celine Dion. And quite frankly, I'm not a Celine Dion fan. Her voice to me is piercing. I don't know if that's just like an inner ear problem I have, but like I don't like her voice. I understand she's singing. I'm not a fan she's got of hers. Skills, but I can't.
Where would you? So where like Adele?
I don't know if she all time. Is she all time?
She's up there. I don't know if I think she's maybe like 7 or 8.
She gets points for like power.
Yeah.
Because like there's other people like Janelle Monáe that I would probably put above. Like I'm not a Beyonce fan, so I probably.
Yeah, Beyonce. I don't know, because I'm not a big fan of hers, but I gotta recognize she does have some skill.
Yeah. No, it's just that's no fucking question. Damn, I don't know if I have like.
We need to do a shoot. So anybody who listens to this podcast, we want you to, we have a mission for you. You need to put in the comments on Instagram when we post our post for this podcast, or if you're on YouTube, you can leave comments there. Let us know who you think are the top 5 men, top 5 women vocalists in your opinion.
We'll have to post a reminder about that.
And then we will do a show that will, because I think that we need to have that conversation at some point. Maybe top 5 vocalists on soundtracks of all time.
Shirley Bassey.
Yeah. On soundtracks, Shirley Bassey's number 1.
Well, speaking of songs, what is your favorite song on this soundtrack, and what song do you think encompasses their story?
You know I can't do that to you. You can't even ask me that.
Dance with My Father Again. I already told you. Dance with My Father Again. I fucking love that song.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for the best song.
Okay, you can skip to Encompasses, that's fine.
But the song that I think might encompass the most, I'm going to say Dance with My Father, probably.
That was kind of similar. Yeah. I almost asked, this is almost a similar question to the first one I asked, which is like, should the subtitle of the film been Never Too Much? I'm still going to go with, I said Here and Now was one of my answers, but I think Encompasses is Any Love. I think that's like the story, right? He's a guy that writes all these love songs but never found love himself. I think that's the one that encompasses.
Yeah, that is ironic as fuck.
So, all right. What is your rating for this film out of 10?
Like I said, this wasn't a bad documentary. Is it the best one we've ever done? Wow, that's a hard question. I would say it's up there, but then we've done some bad documentaries, so there's that. I'm going to rate this on the scale, on my rewatchable scale. And I think this is, for me, a very rewatchable thing, just because of the soundtrack for this. So I'll give it an 8.
I don't want to have the same rating as you. I'm just taking away points for like what we spoke about earlier, like the stuff that just felt like it was missing or not looked in, like expounded on enough. So I am giving it an 8. Luther Vandross himself gets a 10.
Oh, absolutely.
But the film, the documentary itself, I gotta go with an 8. I mean, definitely watch it. Definitely learn some shit. Definitely listen to some great music and live performances. Yeah.
I mean, it was, we talked about a documentary for Luther, like maybe a year or two ago. And they finally did it. And I mean, part of me thinks there's still some meat on the bone that I would like to, but this was fine. It was better than some of the documentaries we've seen before. And like I said, the music is it's just worth it just to listen to this man sing.
It's absurd. Let's see. I gave Amy a 9. I can't remember all the stuff we've done, but like Marley, I think I love that documentary. That probably got it.
Problem.
Let's see. It got a 9.8. It's close.
Really?
9.8. So yeah, I can't remember all the other ones we did, but yeah, this is definitely top.
Is there a David Bowie documentary?
I'm sure there is, but we have to do.
Because we should do it.
Well, we were just talking about. We were talking about another one. Oh, Sly Lives. Sly Stone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, man, what's
Oh, there is.
what's going on with you?
What is going on? I have no idea. Same old thing. Creators Lounge, Wednesdays, 7 p.m. EST. Next one's tomorrow. We're working behind the scenes on some stuff that hopefully I'll have more details for the next time we are on the podcast. But otherwise, just trying to keep ice out of my house.
Not even gonna touch that. Cool. Well, I am.
How was your show, dude?
Show was great, man. I don't know if anybody knows this, but like I had my birthday show this past weekend. It was supposed to be on Friday, but the venue decided it was going to renovate. So we had to move to another venue on Sunday, which is obviously a terrible day to have a show. But my people turned out, and I really appreciated it. We had a good turnout, had a real fun time jamming with the band, and had a few drinks and didn't get home too late. So it was good. It was fun. Good birthday weekend. I will be taking March off because I need a break. But I haven't booked anything yet, but looking to book for the next few months after that.
You have a hopefully soon to release something sometime soon.
Yes, we are just waiting for a guitarist to add some licks to this song, and then maybe the producer is going to add some backing vocals, and I think that's everything added, and then hopefully mix, master, and get this shit released. So yes, hoping a single is going to be out in the next month or so.
Nice. Well, I'm doing, and by the way, I'm doing the art for the cover. So
I haven't decided yet. We'll see.
Also, I'll just go in that folder and delete everything.
Yeah, you can.
Did you see the folder?
It's fine. No,
oh, you
I
did?
didn't
Okay. Screw you.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah, man. You had mentioned this documentary as soon as you watched it. I think you posted about it.
Yeah.
So glad I got to watch it as well. I will be doing a little more of a deep dive into Luther's stuff at the gym tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and so we're still looking for some new films to do. So if you are out there and you know of a good film that has a great soundtrack, or if it has a terrible soundtrack but you think it's funny enough for us to cover, we'll play in that world, but we try not to. But if you'd like to be on the podcast and you have a suggestion for a movie that has a decent soundtrack, let us know. You can comment. If you're on Spotify, you can comment directly on the podcast page, or just stop by our social media on Instagram at the Tracklist Show on Instagram and TikTok. We're over there as well, and we're on YouTube now. So there's that.
And we are definitely actively looking for some new guests to jump on the show. So please reach out to us. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. It's too bad Homeboy couldn't do the podcast. He was just coming back from Montreal, but he wants to do something, so I guess we'll get back to him. Shout out to Claude, and he knows who he is. All right. Well, anything else you want to include?
No, sir.
All right. Well, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us. Instagram, Facebook, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever else. You can follow Chris at Chris Saunders _music. You can follow me at the Daron Jenkins. And until next time, I am Daron Jenkins.
I'm Chris Saunders.
And this was
the Tracklist.
Stay safe, everybody, and don't open the door.